All right, guys, let's jump into the final translation from stage 31 of Cambridge Latin. Salutatio 2. So remember, this is the morning greetings that one does to one's client in Roman culture. And we've had in the previous translation a bit in which the herald has come out of Haterius' house and has told people where they can go. And he's very arrogant. He's seems like a horrible fellow, right? An odious man. So let's jump into the translation. Janua tandem clausa, abire clientes coeperunt, ali contenti alii spe diecti. So Janua tandem clausa, we see with those two long A's that this has two ablatives in it, ablative singulars, first declension. These have to be, or this has to be, an ablative absolute right here. So with the Janua, with the door, tandem, finally, at last, clausa, having been closed. So with the door finally having been closed, or more fluidly, after the door had been closed, abire, to go away. So ab plus eo, so ab is away and eo is to go. So to go away, clientes, the clients, coeperunt, began, perfect tense verb. So in the clients began to go away. Alii, contenti. So some, remember that if we see alii, it's some and others, some, and then contenti, some errant were content. So imagine that form of sum is that in there. Some were content, or some contented, and then alii, others, spe diecti. Disappointed is diecti, or dejected. We get the word dejected from this. It literally means thrown away. So de is away, and yakio is where we get yekti from, and yakio is where we get it means to throw. All right, so thrown away. They feel depressed about it. Others depressed, and then spe is an ablative. Disappointed in. You have to kind of elaborate this out to have it make sense in English. And if you do so, you have to put it in brackets. Disappointed in their hope of gaining favor or of money or something like that. But if you want to keep it just clean and straight, disappointed in their hope. So let's put it all together. So after the door had been finally closed, the clients began to go away, some content, others disappointed in their hope. Next sentence. Deinde servo puella imperavit ut Januam pulsaret. Then, deinde, servo, to the servant, so dative. Dative going with the verb empero takes a dative. The puella, nominative subject, the girl, imperavit, perfect tense verb, ordered. Ut, subordinate clause, indirect command. Ut, to, Januam, direct object, the door, pulsaret, imperfect subjunctive, to knock. So let's put it in word order, proper word order. Actually, I should be using this pointer. Then the girl ordered the slave to knock on the door. Perfect. All right, next sentence. Praecone regresso servus ecce inquit domina mea eu fro sune ad est abi sceleste nemo alius odie admittitur. Okay, so this is actually a few sentences, but we'll put it together. So praecone regresso. Praecone and regresso, that's going to be with the herald having returned, right? The herald having returned, the servus, the slave, inquit, said, ecce, look, right? So look out, behold, domina mea, so my mistress, right? My mistress, and then in opposition to that phrase, eu prosune, that's her name. And notice that this doesn't look like a Roman name. It doesn't end in an A. it ends in a long E, which is it's a Greek eta. And between the eu and the sound, the PH sound, right, and the Y, both of those are not present in Latin. So we know that this is a Greek that we're dealing with. So my mistress, eu sophrone, ad est, is present. So ad plus sum. Also, eu soprune, it literally means in Greek enjoyment, but it's good. Eu is good, and protsune is like a state of mind or a state of being, if you will. So, abi. Abi is a singular imperative. It's from ab plus eu. It means go away. Sceleste, and this is sceleros. We get the word sceleros from this. It means wicked, but sceleste is an ablative here, and it means sort of like you scoundrel, you wicked fellow, you jerk, something like that. Potential evildoer. Nemo is a nominative subject. Well, it's a nemo alius, and alius is also going with that. So no one else, no other person, no other person. Odie, that is an adverb, today. Ad mittitur, passive verb, ad plus mitto, is being admitted. We'll translate it as that. No one today is being admitted. So let's put this all together. So with the herald returning, right? The slave said, "Behold, my mistress, Euphrosyne, is present." Then the herald replies, "Go away, wicked fellow. No one else today is being admitted." All right. And then here we go. Respondit praeco superba voce. So the nominative subject, praeco, the herald, responded, perfect tense verb, responded. Superba voce is, there's no verb in here, but there's two ablatives. And since it's two ablatives with no verb, we know it's not an ablative absolute, but it's just an ablative of manner. It's describing how he's responding. So it's with a voice. What kind of voice? With a superba voice, so an arrogant voice, or with or in an arrogant voice. So he responded, the herald responded with a arrogant voice, or with an arrogant tone. You might translate it a little bit better. Sed domina mea est pilos sofa praeca doctissima inquit servus. So this means said, but domina mea, nominative subject, my mistress. So that is to say that eudeu phrosyne is est philosopha, philosopher, praeca, a Greek philosopher, doctissima, superlative adjective, very well educated, most educated. Inquit servus, said the slave. So let's put it together. But my mistress is a very educated, extremely educated Greek philosopher, said the slave. This is the thing that I love about the Greeks. They were far more, not that they weren't misogynistic. Pretty much every culture in the ancient world was, that I'm aware of. But the Greeks were a tad bit more egalitarian than the Romans, and there's considerably more opportunities for women to have roles like this. One of the most notable ones was a Greek philosopher and natural scientist who had her own school in Alexandria by the name of Hypatia. Hypatia. If anyone's interested in a very good movie about the ancient world, probably my favorite movie about the ancient world, you should watch Agora, and it's about Hypatia's life in Alexandria. Anyway, so let's go to this next sentence. But my mistress is a very famous Greek philosopher. Hook, here, so this is an adverb meaning here. Missa est, this is a perfect passive verb. So missa, perfect passive participle, plus est, here has been sent or was sent, and then a quinto haterio chrysogono. So this ipso, this is an ablative of agent, by Quintus Haterius Chrysogonus himself. So remember that we have this ablative agent because this verbal form is passive. And then we've got this in the commas, haterii liberto. This is an appositional phrase. So liberto lets us know that this is still an ablative, and it's libertos, so freedman. Haterii, this is a genitive possession of Haterius, the freedman of Haterius. So it's still describing Quintus. So notice that freedmen will often take a name of the master that freed them as one of their names. Qui Athenis habitat. So this is a relative clause describing Quintus Haterius Chrysogonus, and it is who, habitat, who lives, present tense verb, and then in Athens. Now this is an ablative. It's an ablative plural of location, and notice that it's an ablative plural because city names in the ancient world were plural. They were plural, so it's a feminine plural. Also notice that city names in the ancient world were feminine. So like Roma is feminine, right? So actually, let me put this all together. She was sent here by Quintus Haterius Chrysogonus himself, the freedman of Haterius who lives in Athens. And then we get a response from the herald. In sa nivit igitor Chrysogonus responded praiko. So main subject, nominative second declension, Chrysogonus, igitor, adverb, therefore. In sa nivit, was insane, right? So Chrysogonus therefore was mad. Responded, perfect tense verb, praiko, the herald, nominative subject of responded. Second sentence that's following off of this. Odio sunt omnes philosophi haterio. So odi sunt is glossed in the textbook, and it just means to be hateful. It means that he hates. We'll translate it as are hateful to, because haterio is in the dative. And omnes philosophy are the subject, so all philosophers, sunt, are odio, hateful, and then haterio, to Haterius. So you could reasonably translate this into, it's not exactly strict with the Latin, but it gets the sense of it. Haterius hates all philosophers. That's what this sentence means. It's not exactly what the sentence says, but that's what this sentence means. Redeundum vobus est Athenas unde missi estis. All right, so redeundum vobus est is a gerundive of obligation. So redeundum is a gerundive or a future passive participle, same form, but this construction, we know that it's a gerundive because of the dative of agent plus est. So literally it means it is for you a necessary thing to return, but we know that we don't translate it that way. We know that the dative right here, vobis, is going to be translated as the subject, and then you are translated as must plus the verb. So you must return. You must return is how we're going to translate this gerundive of obligation. You must return, and then Athenos is an an accusative plural. So it really should be ad Athenos. At least we can put that in our minds as you must return to Athens. Unde means whence. It means the place from which. And then missi estis is another perfect passive verb. So missi is a nominative plural, and estis is also a second person plural form of sum, from which you were sent. So let me put that all together. You must return to Athens, from which you were sent. Next sentence, servus arrogantia praeconis iratus nihilo minus perstitit. So, nominative subject, the slave, arrogantia praeconis iratus. So this is altogether, iratus is a perfect passive participle. It is modifying servus. The slave angered, and then what is he angered by? This ablative of instrument, arrogantia, by the arrogance, and then genitive of the herald, praeconis. Nihilo minus, This is an adverb. It literally means nilo is none and minus is less. So nonetheless, translates literally into English. Nonetheless, persisted, persisted, perfect tense verb. Putting it all together, the slave, angered by the arrogance of the herald, nonetheless persisted. Said Eurus, said Aerilus, sorry. It's easier to read these names, these Greek names in Greek. But said Aerilus, inquit qui est haterio arbiter elegentiae epistulam ad Chrysogonum scripsit in qua eum rogavit ut philosopham huc mitteret. There we go. So, said Aerilus, so but Aerilus, Aerilus is the nominative subject, and then this is he said, so this is still the slave of Euphrosyne talking, but Aerilus, and then qui introduces a relative clause, who, and then is the est is the verb in this relative clause, who is arbiter. This is a predicate nominative that is introduced by est. Who is the judge? We get the word arbiter in English from this. Who is the judge? And then elegentiae, this is a genitive singular, of good taste. We get elegance from this word. Of good taste, and then dative of interest, haterio for haterius. Epistulam, accusative singular, so it's the direct object. A letter, ad Chrysogonum, to Chrysogonus. So this is a prepositional phrase, to Chrysogonus. Scripsit, perfect tense verb, wrote. So he wrote a letter to Chrysogonus. Inquia, ablative of location with that indefinite pronoun, in which eum, accusative direct object, he, that guy, that previously mentioned guy, rogavit, perfect tense verb from rogo, means to ask. He asked, in which he asked him, and then indirect question introduced and subordinated by ut, in which he asked him to philosophum, a philosopher, accusative direct object, accusative singular. Huc, it's an adverb meaning here, mitteret. This is a imperfect subjunctive from mitto, to send. So to send a philosopher here. Let's put it all together. But Aerilus, he said, who is the judge of good taste for haterius, wrote a letter to Chrysogonus in which he asked him to send a philosopher here. Next sentence. Ergo ad sumus. Therefore, ergo ad sumus, ad plus sum, we are present. So therefore we are present. Next sentence. His verbis auditis, praeco qui erilum haud quam amabat magna voce. Aerilus inquit quis est Aerilus. Okay, that's reasonably long. We'll stop there. So, his verbis auditis, we know that these long I's here indicate ablative plurals. So therefore, this is an ablative absolute. So with these words having been heard, that's probably not the best way to translate it in fluid English. After he heard these words, that's the best way to translate it. After he heard these words, praeco, nominative subject, the herald, and then we are jumping into a relative clause describing the herald, who, erelum, direct object of the main verb, amabat, Aerilus, haud quam amabat. Amabat is amo, so it means loved. So imperfect form of that is was loving, and then haud quam is not at all. So who, probably the best way, you wouldn't say who was loving or Aerilus not at all. You'd probably translate this best as who didn't like Aerilus at all. Who didn't like Aerilus at all. I know that I'm shifting from an imperfect form. put that amabat to a perfect form in English or a simple past in English. But it doesn't make sense in terms of English constructions of who was not loving. It doesn't flow. So you wouldn't preserve the imperfect form of it. If you feel uncomfortable doing that, just put a little asterisk by your translation explaining why you shifted it. So who did not like Willis at all? Magna woke. So we've got ablative adjective plus ablative noun, and this is a ablative of manner with a great voice. Inquit, here's our main verb, said, Aurelius, nominative subject, quis est Aurelius. And this is an indefinite pronoun, who, meaning don't know who it is. He's acting like he doesn't know. Who est, main verb, is Aurelius, nominative, predicate nominative, with that copulative verb, matching the case of quis. So put it all together. After he heard these words, the herald, who did not like Aurelius at all, said with a great voice, Aurelius, who is Aurelius? Next sentence, meus dominus haterius est, non Aurelius. So nominative subject, my master, meus dominus, is present tense verb, haterius, nominative, predicate nominative, with that copulative verb, non Aurelius, not Aurelius. So you could easily construe another est in there, but you don't need to. Make sense in English to not put an s. Abi. Abi is imperative. Go away. It's an imperative singular. So ab eo in the imperative is to go away. So just you go away. He's only addressing the slave. Theoretically, he's not addressing both of them. So haec locutus servum in lutum depulit. So locutus is a nominative singular. It is acting as essentially the subject of this. It's a prepositional phrase. It means having said these things. Haec is the direct object of locutus, and it is, even though this whole thing, the person who said it is obviously the praeco, the herald. That's not explicitly stated in here. So this is the only nominative subject that we technically got. It's a predicate. A nominative singular participle, passive participle. Because locutus is from a deponent verb, it takes a direct object of haec. So having said these things, servum, accusative direct object, in lutum, so into the filth, into the mud. Notice that it's in plus accusative period. So it's into, it's not just on. On would be in luto, it would be an ablative, but it's into because it's taking an accusative. And then depulit. It's from de and pello, and it means to throw down, literally, or to push down. So putting it all together, having said these things, he pushed the slave into the mud. Ianuam qua clausit. So accusative direct object, and then the enclitic que indicates that this clause, this other main clause, is being coordinated with this clause. So it's not subordinated, but it is coordinated. These are both indicative verbs. So, and the door, clausit, perfect tense verb, he closed, and he closed the door. So let's put it all together. Having said these things, he pushed the slave into the mud and closed the door. Almost there, guys. Eu frosune, simulatqua servum humi, iacentum vidit, eus iram venire temptavit. So, nominative subject, eu frosune, simulatqua, adverb, as soon as, servum, accusative direct object, umi. Umi is one of the rare forms that we see in the, it's a pure locative. So on the ground. So we had the humus layer of the soil, if you know anything about that, from umi, meaning on the ground. Iactatum. Iactatum is a participle, and it is modifying servum. Notice that it's so having been thrown on the ground. Vidit. Vidit is perfect form of video, meaning saw. So let's put it all together in English. Eu prosune, as soon as she saw her slave having been thrown to the ground. Eius iram, genitive singular, his iram, wrath, accused of direct object. Lenire, this is an infinitive, to, it's sort of like to lessen or to soothe. We get the word lenient from this, lenire. And the iram is the accused of direct object of that infinitive. Timtawit, perfect tense verb, she attempted. So put it all together, she attempted to soothe or lessen his anger. Put it all together, again, eu prosune, as soon as she saw her slave having been thrown to the ground, attempted to soothe his wrath. Noli inquit mentum tuam vexare. So she said, perfect tense verb, noli. So this is an imperative, meaning do not, and remember that noli takes an infinitive. Do not vexare, and vexo means to annoy. So do not annoy or do not trouble. Vexo, we get the word English word vex from this. It's not a very common word anymore, but if you've read your Jane Austen, you'll know that she loves to use it. It's more common about 100 years ago. Do not trouble, and then accused of direct object, mentum tuum, your mind. Do not trouble your mind. Res adversas, aequo animo fere debemus. So res adversas. So res right here is going to be accusative plural. Adversas is modifying it. It's things adverse. And also remember that res is it's feminine. That's why we have adversas there. So adverse things or adverse events. Aequo animo, and this is it's an ablative of manner, with an equanimous mind. So with a calm spirit, or with a calm sense of being. Calm mind, we'll translate it that way. Fere means to bear. It's from Pharaoh, to bear. Debemos is we should. This is a form of subjunctive, meaning that it's called hortatory subjunctive. We should, we ought to. It's in saying that what someone should do, not what someone inherently does. That's why they're using the subjunctive here, and from debeo. So let's put it all together. She said, do not trouble your mind. We ought to bear adversity with a calm mind or a calm spirit, right? Last sentence. Nobis cras raveniendum est. Ending on a high point with a gerundive of obligation. Literally, it means for us tomorrow, it is a thing necessary to come back or to return, but we don't translate it that way. Remember that dative of agent, we translate as the subject of this. So cras is obviously an adverb, so we'll say tomorrow we must return. All right, guys, we have finished stage 31 of Cambridge Latin. Very, very good. We're almost at the end of, we're getting towards the end of our Cambridge Latin course, or at least only a couple more stages towards the end of book 4. 3 more stages, technically. We'll be there in no time. Things are getting hard, but things are getting better. We can express ourselves so much more fully, fluidly with some of the grammar that we now have. All right, so if you have any questions, as always, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in stage 32.